ready. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Thursday afternoon after lunch. And probably we won't fill this room, so I encourage you to move towards the middle so you can ask questions. We're going to have questions at the microphones, and we definitely want to hear your feedback. That's why we're here. We want to share updates on from EDUCAUSE Internet2 and the REN ISAC, and we want to get your feedback and hear what you think are priorities and hear what we should be talking about. And so we'll start. Oh, we should start with introductions too. Hi, my name is Nick Lewis. I'm a program manager at Internet2, working with the information security community.
I am Chip Conner-Rondot, and I am the Chief of Engagement for the REN ISAC.
And I'm Shane Albright. I'm a Principal Security Engineer at REN ISAC.
And I'm Albert Wu. I'm the In Common Federation's Federation Manager.
And unfortunately, Isaac Galvan from EDUCAUSE couldn't make it, and so I'm going to pretend to be him today and tell you about the EDUCAUSE activities, because there's a lot of activities that are available for you to get involved with there as well. So we'll talk a little bit about who we are, why we're here, some of our collaborative successes, and then definitely want to get your feedback. And so I'll start talking about the what's going on in the EDUCAUSE for the higher ed information security and privacy community. EDUCAUSE, of course, works with the privacy community quite a bit. And as part of working with the community, they have a number of community groups where you can get involved and talk with your peers and engage with your peers on numerous different topics around cybersecurity, privacy, wireless, AI, IT accessibility, instructional technology. There's a number of newer groups around organizational change management, student employees, and so many more that are really for you to get involved in. And if you see something that is a topic that's not being addressed there, they always want to hear that feedback, and that's how they've started these newer groups as well. And this is to provide a forum for you to engage with your peers to discuss topics that you're working on campus, that you want to hear other viewpoints or perspectives, so you can take that back to your community and try to use that to help determine how you work with your community. Some of the CGs have monthly group meetings, like the cybersecurity community has a risk around and a GRC group where they have monthly meetings that you can go talk to your peers about that. And then they have quick talks where they periodically will have a particular topic that they'll have a speaker come in and share what they're doing on their campus, and then provoke some discussion with the community. And then they've got one of the new things that they've been doing is around mentoring and career guidance. And so there's opportunities there for you around professional development and career development. And so there's more ways to get involved with EDUCAUSE there. And so that is all through their Connect platform. It's connect.educause.edu, and you can go, as long as you're an EDUCAUSE member, go and access that and then join all the communities that you're interested in to keep up with what's going on in the community. Then there's where I just talked about EDUCAUSE Connect, but there's also a rich number of in-person events. Upcoming conference, EDUCAUSE Cybersecurity Privacy Professionals in Baltimore in May, where there'll be 600-800 attendees, where you'll be able to go and talk about what's going on campus, hear presentations from that the program committee selected that they thought were the most interesting for the community, and that you could provide a wide selection of different things that are going on, so that you can hear what your peers are doing and the best things that your peers have going on their campus. And then the EDUCAUSE annual conference is coming up in October. The call for proposals closed for that like a weekish ago. There's a strong track at EDUCAUSE annual around cybersecurity But then that's much broader. The conference is much broader than cybersecurity. And as part of that, they want you have options for crafting your experience, where you can volunteer for the program committee for the EDUCAUSE annual. They're doing program reviews for the proposal submissions, to be able to create the best program for campuses, to see the most interesting things going on in the community. They'll be doing a call for session reviewers coming soon. And then they want you'd be able to share your insights with your peers and collaborate to find solutions on common challenges in the cybersecurity community, where you can join a working group or a constituent group. There's working groups on business continuity and disaster recovery. There's the HECVAT working group that I'll talk a little bit more at the end about, incident management and response. And they do research work around interviews, panels, surveys, to be able to go out and get information, what's going on in your campus, and synthesize that to provide insights that you can take back to your campus around the community. And they've got a workforce study that the 2025 Cybersecurity and Privacy Report coming out soon. There's the Cybersecurity and Privacy Horizon Report looking 5 years out on what's coming for campuses and what you should be looking for and incorporating into your programs in the next 5 years. And if you have any questions about these, Isaac, he is and Nicole Arbino, very love to talk to you more around some of the opportunities to get engaged and to learn about what your peers are working on. And so to do that, make sure you've got your EDUCAUSE profile, go through and log into EDUCAUSE Connect, and then you can get connected to all of the different groups and the surveys and the working groups, and see some of the available options available to you to get involved, so that you can hear from your peers and benefit from what you hear from the community. And so now I'll talk a bit about Internet2 and some of the community engagement options that we have for the security community. Obviously, you've probably heard in lots of the Internet2 sessions, you've heard significantly more detail, so I'm going to just go over very quickly some of the Internet2 options, since I assume you probably have already heard of most of them because you're here. But there is a network security special interest group. They met yesterday to talk about things related to network security going on their topic on your campus. There's DDoS volumetric mitigation service that is available for campuses and research and education networks to use to help protect campuses. There's been quite a bit of work put into routing integrity and making sure that the network connections are secure for campuses. So it's could potentially be very impactful for campuses to have your routing infrastructure redirected and impactful to your users trying to access cloud services or things like that. And there was a lessons learned published 6 or 8 months ago around some routing security incidents, around some of the misconfigurations, route leaks, hijacks that posed ongoing risks to the stability of campus networks. And so that there's resources there for campuses to get involved with your peers and explore best practices around network security. And as part of that, the Routing Integrity Initiative encourages community adoption of best practices that strengthen the resilience and reliability of data movement across the research and education ecosystem to support our shared missions. And then there's the routing security using manners, which is mutually agreed upon norms for routing security. so that we can have some standard, well, as the name says, mutually agreed upon standards to protect your network. And they've been working on for IP6 deployment, resilient cloud connectivity, and so there's areas, if you're interested in networking and security, you can get involved in some of their activities to work with your peers. And this is just an interesting map of the routing integrity work that's been going on, some of the milestones of where they've made some progress in implementing manners throughout the community, because that's something that each campus needs to implement for themselves that will then benefit the entire community. Another area that Internet2 has is the Minority Serving Cyber Infrastructure Consortium, and they have a cybersecurity community of practice that is for HBCUs, TCUs, and other MSIs for faculty, researchers, staff, and students to raise awareness and support around cybersecurity in that community. And they have a monthly meeting where they get together. They'll have a topic. The last one was around research support, and they'll hear an update from a campus. Sometimes it's a faculty person sharing what they're doing, and then getting the community together to talk about some of their shared problems. And they have regional workshops that they've been going around the country to help build community for the HBCUs, TCUs, MSIs to be able to share practices amongst those institutions. I was involved with at the start of the MSCC, and one of the things that I've learned, my background is primarily with very large institutions, University of Michigan, Harvard, so forth, very large IT organizations. Some of the MSCC campuses are one IT person or couple IT people. And how do you scale some of the things that 1,000-person IT organization does on campus down to that one person is sometimes a real challenge. And so that's where it's even potentially more important for that community to work together and help each other to solve shared problems. And so it's really exciting to see how much progress that they've made and how they've gotten engagement from the community. And more information on their website and links to their community calls and things like that. And then now a couple updates on my specific stuff. And I'm not sure if I remembered, but if you want to ask a question, please feel free to raise your hand, come up to the microphone and ask, and we can talk more details. And so if you've got a question, please feel free to ask, or we'll have time at the end for questions. In the Net Plus Cloud Services part of Internet2, we've had a number of new opportunities for the security community to get involved. We've heard from campuses that they need more training around AWS security. And so as part of getting that feedback, we developed within the class program an AWS security class working with a trainer from Notre Dame, developed a class that they've run now 3 times to train campuses on AWS security so that you can take that back to your campus. And this is training that's focused on, developed by higher education for higher education. So like if you go to like a standard AWS security training class, that's good, but some of those things may not make a lot of sense for your campus, given how campuses work. And so hearing from somebody that has that experience in higher education can be helpful. And so we've been promoting that, and because we spun that up based upon the community input and feedback. We've got another area where we've gotten quite a bit of feedback is campuses need help with Google Workspace for Education around the security settings and how to maintain that over time. And how do you get the Google Workspace for admins and the security teams to work together to make sure that you've got a secure environment? And so that we're spinning up a working group in the near future around that. And so if you're interested in that, please let me know, and we can get you connected into that. We've got a generative AI working group that has 25 campuses involved, trying to do the same thing around generative AI, and obviously that's a very hot topic, and you've seen lots of presentations this week on that. We launched a Net Plus 1Password service last year based upon the community demand. We had a number of campuses request that we do something with 1Password, and we were able to work with them to develop a program working with 7 campuses to do a service evaluation to have a program launched. Then you may have seen some announcements around the cloud scorecard. There's a lot of functionality around looking at cloud services that is really useful for IT teams, but it's also useful for security teams because it'll list out, does that service provider have a HACVAT? Do they have a SOC 2? Will they? And so you can have that all in one spot and go look that up rather than having to go track that down yourself. We've worked with the service provider to try to pull that information together to make it easier for you to go through and get that information and then potentially compare that to a competitor or another service provider. I've got another slide on that to show you what it looks like because it is potentially of interest to the security community. And then we've got a number of new service evaluations that are being started with Anthropic, Grammarly, Portkey, AI Gateway, and Vocarium. And so the way the service evaluations work is that we want you to get involved. If you're interested in this particular service, you can get involved in evaluating that service for your peers. And then we share that work across the community so that we can make that as easy for everyone as possible. But then still do a very thorough evaluation of the service. And so just a little bit more on the scorecard because that's potentially helpful. So you can go look and see like, oh, we've got 1Password in there. You can go select that and get more details on that. Or let's say you wanted to compare 2 services. Let's say you wanted to compare Armorous and Thinks to see about like, oh, how do they compare to each other? You can go and compare the services to see, oh, does it have a VPAT? Does it have a HECVAT? Does it have a SOC 2? So that you can have that information for comparison, but also you could use that for regular reviews because we update that information on a regular basis as well. And as part of some of this work, we've got a number of community calls that we have where you can get involved. There's a crash plan community where we've got 20 to 30 campuses that come to our quarterly call and ask questions and discuss with their peers how are they using crash plan on campus. Same thing for Duo, where we've got 80 to 120 campuses that show up to a monthly call, very active call that's next week at basically this time. And you can ask your peers like, what did you do about this particular thing? Or did you see a certain type of phishing attack in the last month? And talk about that with your peers to see if there's something you need to go check on your campus. Because sometimes you'll find out interesting things when you talk to people. And the same thing for Splunk. We've started doing community calls again for Splunk. We're starting to schedule our next community call, and we're figuring out a topic. And so if there's something that you want to hear from your peers about how they're using their SIM or their Splunk on your campus, we'd love for you to contact us or propose a topic. And for all of the community calls, we want to hear your feedback. Is this meeting your needs? Are we covering topics that you want? And in extending on that, we're always looking for new Net Plus service providers. Obviously, we've got a whole bunch of AI services that are in development, but security teams need sometimes different things. And one of the things I've heard in the last 2 months or so is around remote identity proofing. Like, how do you go about proofing the identity of a person that calls your help desk and says, "Oh, I'm your president. You should reset my password." And how do you go about doing that? Remote identity proofing is very labor intensive, is potentially high risk, and is being potentially a serious inconvenience for somebody when they're already having a hard time. And so there's services that can help streamline that. And if that may be something that campuses are really interested in. And so if that's something you're interested in, or something else that your campus is working on that you want to try to work on with your peers on a particular problem or a particular service provider, please contact us and we can try to figure out how to get something started. And then the last thing I've got is I'm just finishing up a third-party risk management service RFP, getting ready for a service evaluation where we tried to identify a tool to help campuses scale their third-party risk management to all of their thousands of SaaS services that you have on campus. I'll talk about HECVAT a little bit later, but how do you one of the questions we're trying to address with a third-party risk management RFP is, how do you keep track of your 1,000 HECVATs? Do you use another spreadsheet to keep track of a spreadsheet? Or are there better ways to do that? And so we've got, hopefully we'll have an announcement in, like, as soon as I can get it written and done and out the door, then we'll get started on the service evaluation. And so if that's something your campus is working on right now, we're going to be spinning up a service evaluation, like hopefully by EDUCAUSE cybersecurity privacy professionals. And so we want to work together to try to develop that into a full service. And then I'll hand it over to Albert.
All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about InCommon Federation and our work with the various federal agencies, particularly in raising security and trust in federated sign-in. So a bit of background. Federal agencies like NIH and NSF have, for a long time, leveraged federated single sign-on for user access. ERA, Electronic Research Portal, at NIH, and research.gov have long supported InCommon style single sign-on. What has changed in recent years is, as agencies move to adopt FISMA, Federal Information Security Modernization Act of 2014, they're beginning to raise the level of cybersecurity requirements for authentication, for identity assurance. And of course, in order to continue to use single sign-on, we have to raise our game, right? So the work has been in recent years to both work with the agencies to map FISMA requirements, which is based mostly on NIST standards, and the international REFET standards we rely on in the RNE community, making sure there is interoperable mapping, and at the same time, making sure the campus operators of single sign-on services know what to do and can meet those obligations. An example, when in 2020-21, NIH on the heel of COVID outbreak stepped forward and asked the community to enforce MFA when accessing ERA. The InCommon community responded, right, within a period of months. A very large number of InCommon IDPs began not only performing MFA, many of them already did, but also began to signal that they are performing MFA using the standard. Right? And that trend has continued. NSF just last winter also came forward in requiring MFA for research.gov. In that announcement, they also indicated that they will be requiring phishing-resistant MFA in not so distant future. They haven't named a date, but that's all part of the signal of continued sort of raising the bar, if you will, to improve cybersecurity. So as that happens, we're also working with the international community, specifically the research REFET standards body, to make sure these standards are updated. For example, REFET's MFA profile today does not have a signal to communicate this person has signed in with a phishing-resistant MFA mechanism, right? So we're working on that to update, make sure internationally there's interoperability as well. All of this is to achieve several things. First, federated single sign-on can, done right, really saves on money, right? Identity proving is not a cheap thing. Talking about remote identity proving. If you only have to do it once, it, on a large scale, saves a substantial amount of money. It's also easier for users, right? If you only have to do it once, it's a lot easier. For agencies, not having to manage all the user accounts and password resets is a huge savings in effort. It also allows them to scale quickly, right? InCommon in total, I believe, has about 10 million users, plus or minus, if you count all of the universities in our space. That's a fairly large number, right? Even if it's just a fraction of people who access these systems, it's a large number. So there's a real scaling benefits here. Usability. Single sign-on, we all know why we do single sign-on, and it's no different. It just extends campus single sign-on to external institutions or organizations. And finally, and this is my personal opinion, being able to align to NIST standards actually also helps us, our community, raise our bar. It keeps us honest, right? So continue to do this mapping really is a pretty interesting, I think, an interesting work. This is also not just for federal agencies, right? Everything we're doing here really extends to the broader InCommon community as well. Federal agency is a big part of it, research, and of course any grant-funded research falls into this category, as well as some of the commercial ventures, right? Oops. I'm going to go back. Well, I'm going to keep talking. All in all, there are today over 6,000 services registered in InCommon, and about 780 single sign-on services. If you could send that globally to the global Research and Education Federation community, we're talking over 3,000 institutions, identity providers. So it's a large community. And finally, this is more of an invitation. If you are not yet very familiar with InCommon and you're interested in learning more, we have an annual virtual conference called Basecamp. It's a one-week virtual Zoom call event. People have told us this is one of the best virtual conferences ever. This is where you go, you dive deep into everything higher ed at IAM, and you make some really good friends. So it's just around the corner. If you're interested, the information I think is up there. And that's it for me.
Well, thank you. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the REN ISAC, which, for those of you who don't know, it stands for Research and Education Networks Information Sharing and Analysis Center. So it's a mouthful, so we say REN ISAC. But I was asked that a while ago from a member who'd been involved for many years and didn't realize what it stood for. So I thought it might be helpful to have a revisit to that. So today I will be talking a little bit about who we are, what we do, how we collaborate, and I'll also then turn it over to my colleague Shane, and he'll go over a little bit more to talk about some of the other services we provide, some of the things we see, et cetera, that are going on right now. So the REN ISAC is a sector-specific alliance that's basically built from about 800 institutions, a little shy of 800 institutions across 5 countries. The majority are in the US, but it's top to bottom, you know, the big names, and then community colleges and smaller schools. So of those 800 schools, that makes up, I think, over 3,000 individual representatives that work for those institutions that are vetted as part of our trusted environment. So to be a member of the REN ISAC, the university itself has a management rep, and that person then nominates other people for membership, and they have to be vetted. So it's, they're checked out, make sure everything's legit. because the environment that we create is one of mutual trust so that people can feel free to share the issues that they're facing and talk about the problems or the threats that they're dealing with in a closed space, in a closed environment, knowing that this potentially sensitive information will not go beyond that community of practitioners. So we're member-driven. We're focused on our members. We get our funding only from our members. And our goal is to basically help protect institutions by giving and collaborating on intelligence, coordinating opportunities for training, for involvement in other organizations. We're very involved, as you'll see, in Internet2 and EDUCAUSE, and to collaborate collectively on new solutions that are needed to deal with all of the different evolving threats that we're facing every day. So we do this by delivering early warnings as early as we can. We use several feeds to help do this. We curate that intelligence that we get. We have analysts that help break it down and help make it understandable for broader purposes. And when possible, we provide real-time alerts. And the one thing that's important about what we do, if you're familiar with the model of what ISACs are, there are actually many, many ISACs, information sharing and analysis centers. They're usually sector specific, so they're dedicated to a specific topic or type of issue. And so in higher education, I feel like we're probably one of the most complex environments that you can face when it comes to all the moving parts. And because of that, we know inside and out all the things that face universities and colleges in terms of the broad depth of the research they do and the things they need to be watching out for. Often there might be hospitality. There's a hotel on campus. There's a hospital. There's sporting events. There's student records, faculty. You name it, top to bottom. There's physical plant. There's HR. Some have police forces. Some have fire departments. So all of these are taken into account as being part of the unique environment that we help serve. And so being aware of the complexity of the environment makes us, I think, very valuable in terms of our ability to kind of get what is happening in higher ed. I think a lot of entities don't understand how complex higher education is, and they just kind of shake their head and thinking, well, why is it the way it is? And it's just the way it is because it's complicated. So I'm a big fan of higher ed. So some of the things that we do, and I'm not going to go into too much depth on this, but one of the most popular things, if you're a member of the REN ISAC, you probably have read our daily watch report that we do every day during the week. We do it. We don't do it on weekends, but it's your daily digest of your daily briefing, and it is, I think, very valuable. It's consistently ranked as one of the most important things that we do. And we do alerts and advisories, of course, and incident coordination is often member-driven for our organization, meaning we have discussion lists. We now have a Slack iteration that's in a closed environment, and it's very, very active. And I've been shocked at the amount, well, not shocked, pleasantly happy because of the degree of collaboration that's occurring outside of our more traditional ways of doing things. And it's been very, very heartening to see the amount of people that have been involved in helping to kind of launch that. We've only done it fairly recently, and it's been very, very popular. Like I mentioned, we have peer-based situation awareness as part of our community trust. We've got secure channels that we do this through. I keep emphasizing that. It's like people can be themselves in this environment and build kind of relationships with peers across the board, which I think is very important. And the fact that it's not just passive, they're not just absorbing things that someone's telling them, but they're actively participating in these things. And so as part of that, I was remiss in mentioning this in our slides, but we have an annual member meeting that we usually do in conjunction with CPPC through EDUCAUSE. So we will be there in Baltimore. So if we kind of take advantage of the fact that a lot of our members will go to CPPC, and it kind of allows them an opportunity to do two in one. For one trip, they get to do these two things. And so that's going to be on, I think it's May 22nd, yeah. And as I mentioned, we'll be at CPPC. I come to virtually every one of the larger conferences that Internet2 and EDUCAUSE hosts. We do a lot of work with them. We were instrumental in helping start the HECFAT. We run the Community Broker Index. We're involved with the National Council of ISAC, so there's peer organizations that we deal with. We kind of do representation every year in DC although I don't know if we'll do it this year, for the issues facing cybersecurity, especially in the various public sector areas. We work very closely with SANS. If you're familiar with SANS training, we offer substantial discounts on training through them, which we've negotiated. And we've recently signed a deal with what used to be called IT Savvy, if you're familiar with them. And they're now called Xerox IT Solutions, and they can offer some substantial assistance in helping to help find solutions with various vendors for things that you might be interested in trying to accomplish. And so in these days where the bottom line is always kind of getting smaller and smaller in terms of funding, we have to look for creative ways to make sure that our members are continuing to be able to function as economically as possible. And so that's some of the things we've been trying to do, is make that membership really work for them. We do have working groups. We have training, as I mentioned. And we try to stay abreast of national priorities, although, as we know, this is a complex environment right now. But to the best of our ability, we're assisting with that. And we're learning from our members, too. And our members are teaching each other things that are happening for them in this context. So as I mentioned, we have vetted institutional membership. It's very confidential. I can't emphasize that more, which is why I can't really talk about a lot of things in terms of like the way that these folks get to, because we can't. We can't even tell you who our members. We can tell you the institutions, but we don't let anybody know who the individual members are. That has to be done as an individual, revealing that. It's literally like a spy thing. It's like, it just can't do it. We try to be responsive both from our organizational perspective as the people who run the organization, but also it's amazing to see how much collaboration there is in real time, conversations happening about specific issues people are facing. I don't know if it's your turn yet or not. Not yet, okay. So we have our institutional membership. It's not individual, but then as I mentioned, we have member representatives that work in security offices on campuses, and they then can share information with each other. Our membership is open to all accredited higher ed institutions, so all from top to bottom, from Harvard down to local community college can benefit from membership. And we scale our fees. A lot of organizations or entities don't like to talk about this, but this is one of the things that we're most proud of, is our membership is incredibly inexpensive for what you get. So I think a community college pays something like $1,500 a year to be a member. And I think the largest institution pays, I think it's about $3,500, if I'm not mistaken. And we like to joke that that's the price of a laptop. Maybe in a more expensive laptop, but it's still a very good deal when you think about what corporate entities might charge you for some similar things, like our mailing list that we do every day, our Daily Watch, which is rated as valuable as it is. I think Gartner does something very similar, and it costs some money to get that. And as I've kind of emphasized already, through our membership, you get access to threat intelligence. You get to know what's happening at other campuses too. It's like, it's not just trying to solve your own problems in isolation. You kind of get to see what's happening in the landscape out there with your peers, and that support network that you can take advantage of. So I think that's kind of interesting. So I think now I turn it over to you. Is that not correct?
Yeah, I believe that's right. Am I good? Yeah, okay. So as far as not only strengthening individual institutional resilience, but the resilience of the entire community. Basically, that's where the ability for our members to collaborate easily and quickly really is helpful. So I think Chip mentioned that we've recently implemented or recently introduced a new Slack instance for our members to communicate in real time. So not only can they share threat intelligence information via our threat intelligence platform, which we call SES, or the security event system, but if somebody from one member to institution notices attack traffic coming from IP address owned by another institution, they can reach out to that person directly, whereas previously they would have to use us as an intermediary. They'd contact the SOC. The SOC would get in touch with the other institution and then maybe make that connection. Now those, as long as the members have joined the Slack instance or accepted the invitation that we sent them, which more than 50% I think at this point have, they can communicate directly with one another. So it's just one other, Slack instance is one other way that our members can reach out to one another directly. As far as some of the other things related to resiliency, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about, so we used to offer a peer assessment service, and we still do offer it, but we've renamed it the Assessment Advisory Services Group. So we want to build, this is where we build institutional resiliency. So if you're a new CIO, a new CISO, and you're coming into an environment and you really want to understand where you're at, I think a general assessment is a great way to do that. So a general assessment is based on the NIST cybersecurity framework. It involves 4 days of interviews with peer assessors. So those peer assessors are selected from our own membership, our REN ISAC membership. They're typically other CISOs at other institutions, or they're information security directors. Sometimes they're security engineers, but they're people that understand information security and specifically understand information security in higher education. And like I said, they come into the environment, 4 days worth of interviews, and then they spend another 2 weeks working together to write a report of findings and recommendations to let you know where your information security management program is at right now. So again, for a new CIO, new CISO, that's a great benchmark for you at the beginning of your tenure, and then you can decide what you want to prioritize based on that. And I believe the general assessments include some recommendations for prioritization as well. We have policy and compliance reviews, and those can be added on to general assessments if you're concerned with HIPAA alignment, FERPA alignment, GLBA. Those can be added on. They can also be done standalone. I guess I should mention everything we're talking about on this slide is a add-on service, so it's not included in your membership. They are additional expenses, but we basically operate them at cost recovery. So we do pay peer assessors on a contract basis, so we have to pay them. And of course, we need some overhead for administrative fees and things like that. But if you compare our pricing to some of our competitors that are like not part of the community necessarily, REN ISAC is very, very, the pricing is very friendly, very, relatively affordable given the value. While we're still talking about peer-driven offerings, the penetration testing service, those are also REN ISAC members. Our lead penetration tester right now is just fantastic. He's very talented. He's really brought the penetration testing service. He's really helped us improve the penetration testing service in the last year or so. And our penetration testing service is really one of the things that our program manager is the most proud of right now. Kyle Enlow is the program manager for Assessment Advisory Services. He's here today. You may have ran into him already. He'd be more than happy to talk to you about any of these things. Tabletop exercises and kickstarts are the two new engagements that we've introduced in the last 18 months or so. So we have 3 tiers of tabletop exercises, and then there's 3 tiers of kickstart engagements as well. But basically, all of those are designed to help our member institutions increase their organizational resiliency when it comes to information security. Are we running out of time? Is that what? Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to skip this slide. And I think this is you. Yeah.
Yeah. This, I get to be the sales pitch here. If you're not currently a member, the thing that has been resonating most recently with my conversations with folks is that, as we know, threats don't just stop the way they used to, where it's kind of localized. They don't respect national borders. We really do try to emphasize research, learning, and trust as the three foundations of what we try to convey to folks. I think one of the most important things for us right now is, as we're looking to see what's happening on college campuses in terms of funding, is I think it's an opportunity for campuses, if they're feeling a crunch, for very little amount of an investment, to gain a lot of benefit. And so I'm hoping that rather than this be a time of kind of compression in terms of people's involvement in all three of our organizations, that it can be one of leveraging the collaborative aspect of everything that we do instead of kind of feeling the constraints of the current situation. And that's why I encourage you to think about, if you're not currently a member of our organization, but also to stay very active with our peers here as well. And I get to be the cheerleader a little bit because I am running the last slide of the last part of this for right now. But I think it's important that we all stay together and act together in this context, in this challenging environment. So that's it for me right now. Thanks.
Excellent. And so now on to where we collaborate together. So the EDUCAUSE Internet2 and the REN ISAC collaborate. We meet on a monthly basis. We talk about our conference planning, working groups, the HACVAT program committees. We give feedback on the work that we're working on so that we can best coordinate and be most efficient with the community time, with your time, because everything that you contribute to the community, we try to be as most efficient as possible so that you can get something out of that, your campus can get something out of that, and the community can, and so that we can spread that across everyone. And so we want to hear your feedback. And what do you want us to work on? What are things that we're not working? We've basically gone over all the things we're working on, or we're collaborating with you, or we're trying to facilitate for the community. What are we not doing that you need help with, or that you're struggling with, that you want to work with your peers on? Anybody want to share something that? Come up to the microphone or shout it out. But that's how we've started. Like the third-party risk management work that the RFP, that was based upon community input. All of our services are based upon we're community organizations, and we need your feedback to direct what we do in the future and how we work together as organizations. And so I'll close now and say thank you to the team, and we want to come up and tell us, give us your feedback. What do you want us to do differently? What do you want us to do better? What do you want us to stop doing? Is there anything we should stop doing, or that the community thinks maybe we can prioritize resources differently? So we want to hear that from you, and thank you for coming today, and we'll be here for your feedback. Thank you.